You need to get out of your comfort zone. PSO2 isn't that challenging unless you go to these certain challenge modes or these certain things that make it challenging, but you have to actually use these as alternatives because of the lack of this, and this. When it comes to having concrete ways to measure your damage or concrete ways to know if you are really good, it's going to be hard because you need to try to do a lot of comparisons and stuff, but there's no actual in-game concrete way to figure some stuff out. Yes, you got the damage tally, but even then, that's a bit nerfed. That's a bit skewed because of the fact that you're not really fighting against a huge threat. You're fighting against a low-level opponent and all that. So, hi, my name is Morphsuit America. This video is going to be talking about ways that I further improve myself. This is something you would need to watch as well, especially if you are trying to push and try to complete 4-man, because the 4-man Urgent Quest, Emergency Quest, TPD, True Primordial Darkness, it rewards you with a lot of stuff, but you have to actually complete it to get these rewards. Now, if you already know a bunch of your stuff, you don't need to watch this video, and depending on if you're waiting for NGS and you would rather just skip over all this and just wait for that, then so be it. This video is to just show you guys how I went about improving myself, because there's not a lot of concrete ways to actually, figure out this, and this. And I kind of wish that for the damage tally, they did a lot more customization to who you are fighting against, not just a rock bear. I wish they allowed you to do so many things, especially since they introduced that sort of idea, especially when I got back into the game over in Japanese PSO2. So this video is going to be talking about 2 particular game modes. Now, I did use the damage tally every now and then, but it was just so I understood what I need to do and then take it to the battlefield. The thing about the damage tally, even though it is great and all, you're fighting against rock bears. It's not the huge threat. And not only that, the reason why I stress these 2 out is because they kind of push you to the limit because of how stupid their mechanics are in terms of that game mode, and the fact that they can actually go past level 100. A lot of the other enemies that you fight in-game, they don't really go past 100. They're kind of stuck as they are because of the programming and how it is. So these 2 particular game modes will be the solo Masquerade one in the Ultimate Quest, along with the Sodam one. Now, I will mention something when I go to the Sodam point, and if you want to see a certain point in this video, since it is long, you can look in the description for the time skip. But that is it with this intro. Let us get into this video. Note that, once again, this is the ways that I go about doing it. You don't need to copy it, but once again, this is just something that you can use to further push yourself and challenge yourself and get better with a particular class that you may like or you may not be familiar with, but you need said practice. The first quest I'm going to talk about and the first boss I'm going to talk about in terms of self-checking yourself and improving is Masquerade. I brought this guy up last time, but I didn't go into great details because I didn't want to spoil it. This video is going to spoil that, so if you need to close out, pause the video, go and fight against him if it is your first time. You can find him in story mode, or if you're at level 80 main and or sub, you can find him over here in the quest list. Go to Ultimate Quest and find this quest. Now, it's called Area Survey Remnants of Other Worlds over here in Japan. I don't know what it is, but pretty much what you're looking for is a location area that has a bunch of gray mist in a decrepit ruin setting. You want to go to this game mode and get your first time, experience it for your first time, and then maybe come back to this video. Note that you will be starting at death 1, so you're not going to be automatically at death 999. You have to do a climb to get to death 999. And note that the beginning deaths are not that hard. Once you get past 100, and then when you further push to 999, and if you get to 999, they are a completely different ball game. They are monsters because of the huge jump and gimmicks and things that you really have to be aware of, and I'll explain a bit of this later, or you'll see it when I do this fight. But anyways, you want to do this game mode so you can actually get 1, the battle experience you need, but 2, to get familiar with your class, and I'll demonstrate how you can go about this and how you can actually get said experience and whatnot. Now, obviously, some people would say, why not just do the training quest? Now, don't get me wrong, the training quest, the damage tally practice, allows you to figure out how much damage your weapon can do, but it's in controlled settings. When you get into a fight, a lot of the things that you're doing in the damage tally practice is not going to be applicable. And not only that, the one thing you have to note, and this is basic common knowledge of any sort of video game, doesn't matter if it's an MMORPG or like in an actual RPG game, the lower the level and the higher the level you are gonna do a shit ton more damage. And not only that, enemies at a lower level are gonna have lower stats as well. It's not going to be as high compared to that of a level 100 or 200. This is basic common knowledge. So why do you want to fight against something that is very easy and low level? Because there's a lot of things that are already skewed to your favor. The big thing that I wanted Sega to do was actually give you not just a rock bear, just give you a way to customize who you are actually doing a damage tally practice with, and see and toy around with a number of variables, not just like having a rock bear stand still or move around slightly. And not only that, rock bear isn't a huge threat compared to the Ultimate Quest version, or by Ultimate Quest I'm referring to the ultra hard free version of it, and several other boss types as well. It can be a threat if you were to do Extreme Quest and fight against that rock bear, but the damage tally one is not a threat, and there's so many variables you have to consider when it comes to a fight. Anyways, enough of my chit chat, let me actually talk while I am fighting. And note that once again, this is going to show a bit of spoilers, and I'm going to be talking about a bunch of mechanics and gimmicks. Now, I am doing this at a lower stage, so it's not a big threat to me. I can obviously try to push to death 999. I just been lazy about it. I might do it. Don't hold me to that. I am trying to complete death 100, and I'll talk about that one in a bit. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate death 1. You can use this game mode to your advantage at whatever death. The higher the level, the better, because that means you really have no control over it. But if you're able to do it at death 1, you do need to restrain yourself, especially if you do have endgame equipment, because you get an instant kill it. And I'll demonstrate it and waste a bit of my runs on this. Because if I want to, I could just like instant kill this guy, but that's not the point of you getting into this quest. The point of this quest, or how I'm using this quest and what you would want to do, is figure out all the things you need to know about your own class. Like, I could just like spam a photon action right here and most likely kill him without having to worry as much. He did do a little gimmick right there. He did a shield thing, and that pretty much tells you that he decided to nerf you. But as you can see, for death 1, with the equipment that I have, which is like a Guardian Soul set of units, and then also my weapon, I was able to beat the shit out of him. Not as interesting though, because it's like I snowballed that, I tanked all of it. But that's not the point of you getting into the quest. The point of you doing this quest as many times as you need to do, and as many times as you see appropriate, and I know my English is going off right now, but the point is, you want to do it in a certain way where you can actually make it familiar in terms of evading, dodging, in terms of knowing everything basic about your class. Because you want to do this on action, on instinct. You don't want to think about it. You think about it, you get a freeze up, you might panic, and you might mess up. You want this to be an instinct. You want this to be second nature, where if he does shoot like that, you want to try to evade, figure out how to evade everything. Like right now, he's only hitting me for 1, but like, what I want to do is figure out how do I evade with the particular class that I have. For example, with Luster, I'm just doing the step evade, and you can see that it naturally, counters. It's able to get a couple strikes in. He did nerf that though, as you can see. So what I could do now is just like figure out how do I stay up in the air, and how do I evade in the air, and how do I forever stay up in the air. Like, instead of like using the step counter, you could technically do that in midair. I just hit the weapon palette action instead. Now Masquerade's gonna do his one-hit thing, and as you can see, I didn't kill him right off the bat. I'm using him as a literal practice partner. If you really want to use your endgame equipment and try to see how much damage you can do, I would have to recommend the other game mode. You can technically use Masquerade for it as well, but it has to be at a higher death level for it to work. Now, what you could also do, instead of cheesing this with pillars, you may want to try to figure out how do you evade it with this class. How do I do it with Luster? What do I need to be aware of? Like right there, I messed up big time because I was just talking and I was doing stuff, and as you see, I'm getting hit. Like, the point is, you need to make it challenging. And you need to figure out what you really need to work on. You need to point your own flaws out. If you know that you're shitty at evading and dodging or doing certain things, then work on that. Like, that's one for my character right now is not a huge threat because of all the things that I have. When I go through the higher stages, it is a bit of an issue because of how it scales, and also it just hurts. You'll see that this death level, even though it's not at 100 yet, this death level is able to go through my defense and turn me up. But there's a few other gimmicks you need to be aware of when it comes to fighting against this guy. He can summon clones. He has something called a wound, a corruption status. I call it corruption, but the technical name is wound. When you get hit by something, there's a chance that, well, one, it poison you, but that's not what I wanted to do. He actually had to hit me in the normal attack way. Yeah, so you see that there's a red color to my HP bar. That is called the wound status. It takes away a good chunk of your HP. And this is bad because it takes away a good chunk of your HP. The reason why it's bad is because if it gets to the point where it's low, and I think it goes to a certain threshold, I don't remember what the exact percent is, but it will go to the certain threshold of like maybe 5% of your total HP. That's a problem because if you're very squishy, and if your 5% is, let's say, for example, it's only like 200 HP, if this guy is hitting you for around like 300 HP, he can instant kill you. Granted that you have certain things that can help you survive, and you can spam this as many times as you want, as long as you have those numbers, and if you fail, it does not count against you. So you can always go in here, immediately get into the fight, and just get into it. When it comes to the Extreme Quest version, you can do the same thing, it's just that you had to actually go past the 4 prior stages, and then, yeah. And not only that, if you do the story mode stuff, even if you fight against him, I don't know if he gives you any sort of rewards. If you do the climb, there are titles and you can get some benefits off of it. But yeah, you want to fight against this guy and get, well, 1, used to him, but 2, just toy around with him and figure out your own stuff that you need to do. As you can see, I'm fucking up on my timing right there. And it's like, I gotta correct that. Alright, how do I do that? Or maybe I could not, well, maybe I could avoid like doing a bunch of evades. I think if I do my first evade when he does that 3/ thing, it counts for, well, it counts for the second /2. As long as I get it to proc, but as you can see, my lusted time proc. And as you can see, that corruption status is a pain in the butt unless you take care of it. Obviously, there are some mates that you can use to fix that issue, but if I do not take care of that issue, or if I do not kill this guy as fast enough, that's gonna be used against me. And note that poison along with that is dangerous because it can also proc your lifeline if you're not careful about it. So we could go in here again. You do this as many times as you need to. And what I'm gonna do is try to work on my evades. But this is what you want to do for almost all the classes that you're not familiar with. You want it to become second nature. That's the point of you spamming this. You want to do it on the fly, on instinct. You see something swing, you don't need to really think about it. You just evade because of the fact that he's doing it. Yes, your brain might be processing still, but it's muscle memory on your fingers. It's muscle memory on you just like looking at it as well, without your brain having to think, oh yeah, this is what I need to do. It's not like, no, just do it. Like, you want to build up on that battle experience, and this is a good guy for it. He has clones, he has that corruption status, he can nerf your stuff if you're used to it, and he is a live opponent, and it's just pretty much a boss fight, a 1v1 you can easily access to. And once again, if you want a huge challenge, especially if you are tanking it, or if you're able to withstand a lot of his hits, go to the higher death for it. But pretty much try to cover your basics, try to cover the stuff that you need to know. One of them is like knowing how to evade with luster. Alright, what else can I do? What other moves have iframes? Can I actually like maybe most likely use weapon palettes for that? No, as you can see, I tried to use a weapon palette for that. It didn't really give me an iframe. I think if I use that move in the animation of dashing forward, it can give me iframes. Like, you need to toy around with it. I got hit by that. I should avoid that next time. This is a one-hit KO move, and most likely I'm gonna get killed by it. How do I do it? Get out of it. Do a double dash. Okay, what do I need to not do? Don't do a double dash when it comes to you trying to get hits off of them. Alright, if I'm... what is it? If I'm low on HP, how do I heal myself? I hold the space button and then I hit it, and then boom, I get a bit of my HP back. And then I want to do it again, do that. Alright, how do I stay up in the air? How do I build up? How do I activate the blaze for FOMO style and then just put it and apply Adrenaline on him? I need to hold the left click for that, and then I also had to either like use a photon action or normal hit this guy so I can apply it. Most likely you want to do a weapon action for that, or your photon action. Alright, how do I stay up in the air and evade all his stuff? Like, yeah, that wasn't perfect, but the point is you need to challenge yourself, push past your own comfort zone, and this guy can definitely get you out of your own comfort zone if you are too lax about it, and let's say you just spam a certain photon action back to back to back. This guy can get you out of that because he's like, no, I will nerf that. There's only a couple enemies that can do that. Falag can do a nerf, and then Anga, but the problem with those two bosses is the fact that it's not updated. Yes, you can do a hardcore mode on story, but even then, if you have in-game equipment and you're already maxed out and you go fight against that particular game mode, even the Extreme Quest one, it's not going to be as bad. This is why you have to note level differences in how to find certain enemies that will really push you. And they are a threat. Death 999 is a whole different monster and ball game, and if I had to compare the two game modes I'm going to be talking about, Masquerade is the challenging one. Especially at Death 999. Yes, you can get familiar with his own moveset, but the thing about Death 999 compared to Death 100 Sodam is that the moment you get into that fight, it is a constant threat. The moment you get in, he is a threat right off the bat because of the fact that he's most likely at a high level, he has a lot more HP and stats, and then not only that, he can most likely tear through, it doesn't matter if you have the endgame equipment, he can most likely tear all your defense, take a lot of your HP, and most likely almost instant kill you, granted that you have a will or something to combat against that and help you save or survive that one hit. But you still got to be careful of his other gimmicks like his corruption and his poison, because if you are not 100% on point with that, you are going to get punished and you might die for it. So anyways, that is it for this game mode. You want to toy around with Masquerade because he is a good teacher. Yes, it can get tedious. Yes, it can get predictable. Yes, he may be annoying. But here's the thing. He has a lot of built-in features that a lot of these other bosses aren't or don't have. And he will get you out of your comfort zone. And that's a good thing because you want to get out of your comfort zone. And you really need to push yourself and challenge yourself and self-check yourself. You need to be aware of your own weaknesses and strength. Not only in game, but also in real life. But that's a different story. So the next point is actually emphasizing on Sodam, or pretty much his entire boss modes. I'm going to be talking about the solo ultimate quest in a bit, but before I do that, I do want to bring up the other thing you could do, but this depends on what you are doing in game. Either you are trying to farm for it, or you are trying farm for a bunch of stuff, but honestly you would want to actually do the 4-man to get a lot of the end game stuff right off the bat, or you are trying to get in a good chunk of practice. I'm playing on the Japanese version, so we cannot easily get these Face of the Abyss triggers, aka the one that is pretty much true Primordial Darkness, the giant guy that you see at the end of episode 6. We don't have an easy way to get them. The main way is to use Star Gems to get them. Now, instead of a fresh find, we have a treasure shop. I already have a separate video talking about it. But you have to spend Star Gems to get that trigger. Now, I don't know if they updated it to the point where it can drop in quests. Let me know in the comments, but the main way that I heard people get them was through Star Gems. And then there's the Meseta shop as well, but most of the time the Meseta shop does not sell any triggers. And I'm going to just showcase the Weapon Badge 2021 over here, or the Weapon Badge 2021 and Weapon Badge 2020, and show you guys that we can't even get it by Weapon Badge. However, you guys in Global can actually get it, and I'll swap over there to Global and on that character to show that you can actually get them from the Rising Badge shop. So if I go over here, you can see that there's no triggers whatsoever. It has all these other things, but not triggers. If I go over here to Weapon Badge and go to 2020, there's only 2 triggers, but they're old and it's not as many. So you only get the episode 3 Profound Darkness one, and then the, what is this, Mom and Deuce. It's pretty much episode 4 bosses. So yeah, we don't have an easy way to get those triggers, and depending on your goal, especially if you want to get practice in all 3 forms, you can easily do that over there in global compared to that of Japan. Japan, you would need to find that, or you would just need to hope and run the 4-man and see if you can try to succeed it. It's like you can try to pass it. If not, then there is an alternative method to trying to figure out, hey, look, can I actually do this? So I'm on global right now. You can tell that the NPC is up here on the 2nd floor. I'm gonna talk to them. Instead of weapon badge, we have the rising weapon badge over here in global. You want to go to the shop 5, not the candy one, the one above it. Scroll all the way down and you can see that you can buy these triggers for, what is it, 6 badges? Which will, or 8 badges, excuse me, the Face of the Abyss. This will reenact that of that urgent quest emergency quest, so that means you can get your runs in and your practice in. That's the big thing, practice, because you are dealing with all of those phases minus the surprise that you see in the 4-man. So this allows you to reenact that. Now you could do it with a full party, or you could literally do it with 4 people. You do have to note that the HP might be different. Note that there's no way to actually figure out HP unless you data mine some stuff or you go into its coding and all that. But the HP might be different, and also you got to consider the time as well. For the trigger and for the normal urgent quest, note that it is 60 minutes. You have 60 minutes to try to kill this thing. Compared to that of the 4-man TPD, you only have 22 minutes, 22 seconds. So there is a difference, and you get to make note of that, and that does play into how everything translates. And once again, with the solo ultimate quest as well, you are time crunched to 15, and you're technically dealing with 2, or well, actually 3 phases, depending on how you define phases. But the thing is, that thing also has a shit ton of HP, and that is another good way to test yourself. But if you want to get a practice in for the first phase where you jump between the platforms, and then also the end phase where you had to fight against the form where he fires the giant fucking laser in the middle, then this is a good way for that. And if you are playing on global, you should take advantage of it. You should abuse this trigger, use it to your advantage, and then hopefully get as much experience as you can, and then get into the 4-man mentally and physically prepared. Granted that it depends on your playstyle. If you want to go in there blind, then go in there blind. If you want to actually look up videos and guides and strategies and such, that is entirely up to you. Personally, for me, I would say go in there blind and experience it yourself. Experience it first, and then work on stuff that you need to work on. Then try to complete it without looking up anything, and then once you complete it, then look up other ways that you could beat the shit out of this guy. There was a Japanese run that was able to do it within like 10 minutes time span. So in terms of rushing this, I don't know what's the world record in terms of beating this, but I'm looking forward to hearing some comments about it. But this is how I would prep myself for a 4-man, and also how I would test myself in terms of damage. Alright, the next quest mode I'm going to talk about is Solo Sodam. It's an ultimate quest. It's at the very bottom. It will be unlocked to you if you have a main and or sub at level 90. If you're playing Successor, you got to be at level 90. So it will pop up when you get to that point. So this game mode is more on you getting the experience and the knowledge that you need when you fight against this particular boss type, and then also seeing your damage. So here's the thing, certain bosses aren't going to be as hard once you get used to them, but certain bosses will be hard because of the fact that they might have a shit ton of HP, and this is one of them. The big thing, the way I will sum up this stupid ultimate quest, and I do have a bit of a grudge against it because I did not like the fact that they kept everything the same after we spammed 50 times of the urgent quest, emergency quest, Face of the Abyss. It's like they kept everything the same. The only difference is the fact that this game mode will reward you if you're able to complete it, but not only that, it has a shit ton of HP, and I have an issue with bosses with just a bunch of HP and no fancy gimmick to it, which is why I had a thrill fighting against that certain surprise in the 4-man. But yes, the thing is, you use this game mode more for a damage check. You want to fight against this damn thing and see how much damage you can do in certain time frames. Now, for this to actually work, you would need, especially in terms of pushing yourself and challenging yourself, you may need to figure out if you can do a shit ton of DPS. And you would want to do it as much as possible and go as high as possible in terms of the death. Because I don't remember the exact number for death 100 Sodam, but it is just a shit ton of HP, and you need to kill that in 15 minutes. Like, I am exactly on death 100. It is difficult for me in particular because I'm not using 3-click, and I was quite stubborn about it because I said that I'm not going to change to 3-click until I get 4K subs. So until then, I'm stuck with 2-click. And this is just my own nerf and my own challenge. And if obviously I can just like toss it away, but I ain't no fucking bitch. I am gonna stick with my own challenge. And the thing is, Death 100 kind of pushed me to do a lot of things that I usually don't do, like getting timed abilities, getting a drink. Notice that I don't usually drink. It doesn't matter if it's a hard or a easy quest. I don't usually drink. I didn't have any rings on my units as well. I was pretty much doing a lot of things like I would do back in episode 2 and 3 era. So, getting to Death 100 is an accomplishment in itself, but at the same time, it's like, I really have to be on point with it. But the point of you going to Death 100 is to get that shitty amount of HP on this guy and to dwindle it down and try to beat the shit out of him. Not only that, I also want the rewards as well. So the best way to figure out if you can actually do a lot of DPS, and most likely this video is going to be long because I'm not going to cut this out, is to see if you can actually beat Death 1 with whatever style you have. Now, you need to first go to Masquerade, understand your own class, and then do all those things, and then most likely come over here afterwards. And this is how I was able to figure out a lot of my weaknesses with certain classes. Like Braver Hunter, for example, I was playing around with it, and I wasn't doing as much damage. It could be because of the fact that I wasn't positioned right, and most of the time I had to try to position myself to that core of his. But you want to get the basics down and just figure out what do you need to work on and how would you do it. And if you can't beat Death 1, that kind of raises the question, what am I doing wrong? How do I improve? And what do I need to do? Now, if I want to, I could try to most likely beat this guy with just one photon action, but it's not ideal for you to do that. And there's a lot of things, once again, you would want to know, especially with Luster and Foma style. You would want to know all the basics, like how to get that red triangle up, how to apply gelin and all that. But let's not even apply gelin. My weapon does benefit off of it because it has phrase decay. But let's pretend that I don't know how to use gelin. I just go into this game mode blind and just start going ham on him and do a couple of things where it can help me. The thing is, you want to try to see if you can beat Death 1. If you can beat Death 1, then see what stage you will get stuck on. Once you get stuck on a certain stage, the question is, what do you need to work on further so you can actually do so much damage? If you're able to get to Death 90 and 100, that's just a shit ton of HP right there. And that in itself is a bit of an accomplishment. But any of the lower deaths, it's not that bad. And not only that, the lower deaths too don't really add the other thing that kicks in when you go and climb this game mode. I think I'll be able to kill him just by doing this. Just by spamming Fletch it. The enhanced one, stay still one, and then just like, yeah, it's not gonna be that bad for me. But I did have problems when I first came in here when I was doing Phantom. No, not Phantom Rifle. It was Braver Hunter. I'm trying to remember what other class did I use to try to do it. But the thing is, I didn't position myself well. I was pretty much on the ground and I kind of just stabbed at his legs. Like, you're not gonna get as much damage if you don't aim for the weak spot as well. Like, if I aim down here, it's only giving me 40,000 and whatnot. But if I aim up here, you can see that there's a huge difference. But there's also gonna be a huge difference if I were to, say, put on a gelin on this guy. Now, this is just the bare minimum. And most likely I could kill him in... I think I could actually kill him in 5 minutes or so. But I don't think that's good with the equipment that I have. And all that stuff. Like, you gotta point out some of the flaws on your part as well at times. Let me just take some hits. Instead of evading, let me just take hits. But you wouldn't want to do that because you'll notice that your weapon gauge gets filled up if you actually evade. But once again, that's you toying around with the class and understanding all of its gimmicks and actually figuring out how you can benefit. Not only that, you're also getting experience against this guy. If you don't have as much battle experience against this enemy type, then this Death Climb will help you get 100% familiar with him to the point where you can easily evade a lot of his attacks. Yeah, I don't think this is a good time for me even on Death 1 with my gear. And I have like pretty much the Guardian Soul stuff and Phrase Decay and the claws, crafts, weapons, and units. And also I have a time and ability on me too, so it's like, yeah, no. Like, I'm not going as aggressive as I could be as well. Yeah, I'm not going as fast. I'm not positioning myself a couple times here and there. And I'm just spamming one little thing too. So, well, I need to stop evading. It's second nature for me to evade easily. But the point is, like, if I did something very easy and common, it's not really a challenge. Until you get to the higher death and then realize, oh, I'm not killing this guy in the same time like Death 1 and all that. And not only that, it just adds a bit more to it, especially if you hit the certain death level. I think 50 is the one that you had to be careful with because it adds the other particular surprise. I'm not gonna say what it is because you'll experience it yourself. Yeah, I'm not burning all my PP as well. I'm just stab, 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 stab. Yeah, this is just me, like, not evading as much and just spamming one photon action. Do you want to do this? Nope, not really. I would be swapping between them. But I also have a little gimmick where it's like I put a shortcut word so I can actually swap between weapon palettes. Oh, I said I wasn't going to evade. But yeah, if you don't position yourself as well, it's like you're not doing as much. But this is a good way to figure out if you are able to use the combinations to do a lot of damage. And then also just put your stuff into action again. Instead of using Rock Bear, use this guy as a damage tally. You can get used to him. And also, this will help you get ready for the 4-man because you're fighting against this particular enemy type. And this particular phase, along with the other one as well, it's going to be throughout most of your 4-man run. But this run isn't going as fast. I haven't used Lust of Time as well. Obviously you want to use Lust of Time, you want to do it quick. So that took me roughly around 6 minutes. Now, this video is going to be long because I am demonstrating a point. However, I'm going to have to do a bit of fancy editing because I don't want you guys to hear a lot of my clickety-clackety stuff on my keyboard. And I'm going to be concentrating for this part as well. So I'm going to do that Death 1 again, and I'm going to show you how fast I can do it. I think that time was like 6 minutes. I can do it really fast. Granted that I do a lot of the things that I trained myself to do. Not only that, I could also take a drink, but since I didn't take a drink and since I didn't feed my mag in the previous demonstration, I'm going to keep it as it is. So I'm going to be doing... Oh wait, hold up. Wrong game mode. It has to be Death 1. So now you can hear a bit of the clickety-clackety. So I'm going to do Death 1. I'm going to be applying all of the stuff that I kind of know about with FOMO. Especially in terms of applying gelling, because that will benefit me because my weapon is built around that. You can see a giant difference in damage as well with a gelling applied and me taking full advantage of a Phrase Decay. Anyways, enough of my chit chat. I'm gonna do some fancy edits, put in some music, enjoy. Hopefully I can beat that time. What was it, 6 minutes? Yeah, no, I don't. With the equipment that I have too, like this is pretty much, what is it? Once again, the claws, crafts, and then it's Guardian Soul stuff. I do need to fix one of my pieces so it can have return at 5. But anyways, enough of my chit chat. I'm gonna mute my actual voice audio and just put it over with music. And if you want to know what the music, well, what music is playing, you'll see it on the screen. I still messed up every now and then, but as you can see, there's a difference from that previous time, which I think it was 6 minutes-ish, and then there's that difference of a 4 minute. Now, I could have worked on a couple of things, because I did a few hiccups here and there, but that's the thing. You need to apply a lot of the things that you toy around with Masquerade, then use this guy as a damage practice. To conclude this video, pretty much, I use these two game modes hand in hand. If I want to play with a particular class and I want to get used to the basics and understand its mechanics, then I'll toy around with Masquerade a number of times and then try to do that in other different game modes like Extreme Quest or Divide Quest. Then if I really want to push it and challenge myself and see if I can do a lot of damage, I would go to the solo Sodam. Now in terms of using this to your advantage in 4-man, you will want to do the same thing. You want to know your basics, you want to know all the things that will help you do as much when it comes to fighting against that 4-man Sodam. But you will also want to get familiar with the enemy type, so you can either use solo Sodam or you could technically use the triggers and spam that a bunch of times, especially with 3 other people. If 7 people could actually run a regular TPD ultra hard on the Japanese PSO2, most likely the same can be said with running a 4-man with the regular one. And there have been people that actually soloed the, the emergency quest, urgent quest, the 12-man one by themselves and actually beat it. So, well, did they beat it in a good chunk of time? No, but they did destroy the thing. So there's a lot of ways to challenge it because of the accessibility and all these different game modes. It's just that it depends on how you want to prep yourself. And even if you don't plan to actually do the 4-man, this is just a way to self-check yourself in general, because that's how you get better. You use these things to push yourself out of your comfort zone and then also just make it a challenge, or it is a challenge because it is a challenge. Now, not everyone's a big fan of modes like these, but at the same time, I will use them as a way to get better, because the stuff that they give by default, like the Rock Bear, it's fine, but the problem I have is that it's not really a huge threat. Why Rock Bear? Why not give me a way to change the enemy types and give me a bit more of something else? Maybe I want to fight against Shiva. Why don't you give me a practice dummy of Shiva where I could try to out DPS her and then also try to fight against her when she is actually in combat? The thing that I have with PSO2 and some of the game modes is that they don't really expose as many ways to practice, especially like with mining defense and having people just organize it better, especially if it's not that accessible. Now, granted that global is a bit of a different story because of the fact that you can get these triggers and then you could technically use them as practice runs, but over here in Japan it's hard to actually get some of these quest modes and it's hard to do this and this. Granted that if it's actually important and relevant at that time, it can be spammed a bunch in the beginning, but then it falls off later on. So this is how I would personally challenge myself, and this is up to you if you want to use the same sort of format. I use Masquerade to just push my basics, either to become on instinct or just push it beyond the level that I already know and just try to get used to it and just fighting in a challenging game mode. Or I use Masquerade and then get through the basics and then use solo Sodam and see if I can do a lot of damage. The only problem that I have with doing these two separates is that it's just a different feel, and once again, Death 999 is just a huge threat the moment you come in compared to that of Death 100. Don't get me wrong, Death 100 Sodam can beat the shit out of you, or yeah, Death 100, which is pretty much level 200, can beat the shit out of you and can become a threat, but it's because of the fact that he's at that high level and the fact that it is designed like that. But he's not a big threat if you are tanky, or if you are able to just it's not that bad compared to Masquerade. The moment you get in, one hit from him is already a threat as it is. Like, you can most likely survive a couple of hits from Sodam before you have to proc something or you will be in a dire situation. With Masquerade, you're on edge almost all the time, especially with Death 999. Anyways, let me know your thoughts, opinions. If you want to suggest someone else, some other boss or something, put it down in the comments. But thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this video illustrates how you could actually physically get better, not only in terms of your favorite class, but maybe in some other classes as well. And then I will have a separate video later to talk about the 4-man and how I kind of went about it with all my other buds as well. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.